Welcome back to our EVO project, guys. We had the all the hard parts installed. I just finished the vacuum lines for the valves on the exhaust. You guys saw us install that earlier in a different episode. But in the meantime, because things have been kind of hectic around here, we were able to disassemble the struts and get the Novatec suspension put in. You can see the rear setup has the helper spring at the bottom to take up tension and a ton of adjustability there in the coils. And then on the front side, the Novatec setup has the accommodation for the factory nose lift. So you can see the coil is actually placed at the bottom. You'll see the adjustments all the way down at the bottom of the strut that allow us to get a full range of nearly 3 inches up and down movement, and also retain the factory nose lift. The cool thing about this is we also order these little links called ghost links, and they are ride height adjusters or correctors to keep any error codes from coming on the dash with the new lowered ride height. So the car still thinks it's riding at factory height. So that install is all buttoned back together. We still have to put all the fender liners back in and things like that. But in the meantime, today we got a really cool delivery from Germany. So we thought we'd bring that to you as well and show you. So take a look what's on the floor over here, Dusty. Big box. So for you guys that aren't familiar with Novatec, you may have heard of them. Novatec is a tuning company in Germany, been around nearly 30 years, kind of cut their teeth on the Ferrari brand back in the day, and then just started to invest into more manufacturers as they became more popular. So they are known as one of the top tuning brands in the world for fitment, quality, customer service, everything. So to see a Novatec car completed, it's usually a special thing, and we're excited to see these parts. And see, this is indicative of a great shop. So they send their own urethane or adhesive that they would like us to use on the installation of all of their parts. The great thing about companies like this is while the cost up front might be high, the cost to replace or cost to warranty or repair is usually none because of the support that we receive from companies like this. So something to keep in mind, and that we educate our clients with when they come into Label looking for parts to add to their car. So we won't open up everything in this this video, but I want to open up at least one piece straight out of the packaging and show you guys what that looks like. We'll have a bunch of unpacking to do, as you can clearly see. So this is just a trim panel finisher that will replace one of the plastic pieces that Lamborghini has. All of the Novatec parts are autoclave produced, and they all have a serial number, usually with a batch number, so that if there is a warranty issue or a repair that needs to be done, that they can make sure that they trace it back to the proper batch, and we get the proper carbon weave to make sure that there's no differences in the replacement part. So this is just the first part of many, so we're just going to go ahead and open the rest of these up. And then when we get them all opened up, we'll get them laid out on the floor and kind of show you all the parts that we're going to be installing on this EVO. So Justin and I just got all of the parts removed from the packaging. And if you want to come a little closer, Justin will show everybody kind of what we have for this EVO. So obviously we have the full carbon rear diffuser, which is a really awesome piece. I'll flip it over so you can kind of see the inside of it too. But you can see these are all built in an autoclave. They have factory provisions in there for all of the factory mounting locations and holes and undulations that the inside of the panel has. These are really, really cool pieces. These are the rear window air intake grates. So we're replacing the louvered hatch on this car and replacing it with the glass so you can see the engine. These will go alongside those and replace the big factory plastic pieces that are kind of ugly. Obviously we have our mirror caps always on these cars. We do have caps. These are applied using urethane. And we showed you the trunk cover piece before, or the bonnet. This is the front splitter cover. So this is, and you can see the V carbon in it. This overlays the center portion of the factory front spoiler and applies using urethane as well. We have a couple trim pieces for the front, and then also our rear air intake grates. These are cool pieces. The factory piece is plastic. This goes right behind the driver and passenger glass and gets rid of that plastic in there as well. Like I said earlier, they include the some of their urethane. We also have our own. We have a ton of that. And this cool little piece, this is the Novatec V10 aluminum replacement panel for the back air intake cover, which you can see. Factory cover is V10. And that's really, this is kind of indicative to like the branding that we like too. You know, this is using the factory design, putting their logo on it, and just keeping it clean. So obviously another reason why we blend well with Novatec and enjoy being a Novatec installer and distributor and retailer here in Michigan. And I'm excited to get these on the car and put the first Novatec EVO on the ground here in Michigan. So we're going to get this stuff set off to the side and start prep the panels for the installation, and then we'll show you what that looks like. Today I'm going to start disassembly on the rear bumper. Obviously you already see we've removed the rear exhaust outlets, which will be replaced by the Ryft tips right here where my hands are. So that allows the bumper to sit a little more flush when we work on this diffuser. So like every other car, everyone's different. This one has a lot of panel clips in it. It actually has some rivets, which are unique. We haven't had these before, but these rivets here are all attached to the substructure of the diffuser. So we're going to remove the wiring loom, we're going to remove all the panel clips, and then we're going to have to drill out these rivets to release the stock diffuser from the rear bumper. Now that gloss black diffuser is actually a $6,000 option from Lamborghini. And really it's kind of one of those things I could go both ways on. If the client doesn't really like carbon fiber, I get it, leave it black, kind of forget about it. But in my personal preference, I would probably order the car without any gloss black additions, just because in the aftermarket, I feel like we can get a much better part and a better look, more custom to the application. So I'm gonna time lapse this. I'll put the GoPro on and show you guys how this all comes apart. And then we'll, when I'm reinstalling the new one, we'll show you how that pops in, and then all of our panel clip reassembly. Got all the clips off. You probably saw in the video, used our handy little tool called the Shim Jim. This comes with a couple, actually quite a few of these little tabs that we try to slip in. This one's a little different because of that substructure. You can't fit it as far in. So every vehicle's a little different. Take your time. Try not to break any clips. I found out my best chance of not breaking clips is early in the morning. So first thing in the morning, that's when I'll do this. If I do it at the end of the day, by breaking all the clips and epoxying everything back on. Just kidding, I don't really do that. But I'm just saying, I have to be patient when we do this, otherwise you break clips and it doesn't work out well. So got everything disassembled. I'm gonna try to pop this off right now and show you guys what we're left with. Like, they put a little bit of double-sided tape on these center brackets to attach itself, I guess to avoid any rattling or bouncing around of that at high speed. And just like that. So once we got that double-sided tape off, there's our factory Lamborghini EVO painted black diffuser and what we're left with in the structure. I made marks on the diffuser on where all of our clips are. We usually go overboard on this stuff just to make sure, because we have so many things going on. This is a good refresher. So if we get sidetracked with a client or a phone call or something like that, we can come back and pick up where we left off. So I put hash marks at all of the factory panel attachment locations so that when we transfer everything over to the carbon diffuser, we're in the exact same spot. So I'm going to start to take those clips off, assemble them on the new carbon splitter, and then work on trying to get it attached to the factory bumper. So as we're continuing to install this diffuser onto the EVO rear bumper, just like every car, everything's different. Carbon parts are usually very difficult to work with, who the manufacturer is. In this case, it was no different. We had to come in and actually Dremel the entire edge of the diffuser along with the tabs, because the heights of the tabs were a little too high. The thing is with carbon, carbon is so rigid that it has no flex. So unlike the factory plastic pieces, which flex and kind of bend into place, carbon just doesn't have those properties. And that's also why you like carbon, because it's so strong. But in the world of installing these and making them look perfect, it requires a little bit of effort. So we spent about an hour modifying everything, and we think we've got it to a point where we're ready to pop it into the bumper and keep moving ahead with our final installation. And if you haven't seen what carbon fiber dust looks like from modifying carbon fiber parts, look down here. I don't know how to write our logo, but it was as best as I got in cursive. So we're done fighting with the diffuser. Diffuser is on and installed. Everything looks good. The final step to assembling the rear bumper before we actually put it on the car, we're going to install our Ryft tips. Ryft, obviously, probably our #1 exhaust supplier for a lot of our projects. You can see the quality on these tips in the way that they manufacture. So essentially, they use the same setup that the factory does. So it's essentially a mirror image, so that when we install these, we get the same adjustments and the same fitment that we do with the stock tips. These are bigger, titanium, just kind of finishes off the back of the look of the car. And on this satin silver, I think it's really gonna pop. So I'm gonna install these 3, and then we'll hold the bumper up so you can take a look at what it looks like. So now we can lift this up and show you kind of what our finished product is going to look like. This will wrap up this part. We'll finish looming the wire back in here the way that it was. And we will maybe make some minor adjustments to the tips onto the Ryft exhaust once we put the bumper on. So we may take it on and off a couple times just to make sure that fits right. And then we're pretty much done with the back half of the car. We can start that reassembly and we'll show you it come back together and then show you the bumper installed on the car. As we continue on our EVO build, right now we're installing all the Novatec carbon additions. And we're not going to go through all of the process. It's kind of redundant and repetitive, but we want to show you, for example, how we install this front splitter extension piece on the factory component. So a really important part whenever we're bonding components together is priming the surface. In this particular case, especially this ABS plastic, that comes from the factory, is that a lot of things, this has almost like an oil impregnated into it. It will always shed in an adhesive and eventually your bond will let go. A lot of guys use double-sided tape. We never use double-sided tape. Whenever we make an addition, it's a permanent addition to the car. We let the client know that ahead of time, but it's also the cleanest and the longest lasting addition on the car. So I'm gonna go ahead and start to prime this surface, and essentially all this is an adhesion promoter that will help our bonding agent actually make a really strong bond. So I usually make like a perimeter on the entire part. We don't really care what it looks like because it's going to be covered up with adhesive. But all of our kind of high, I would say high impact or high chance for failure rates, we always put the adhesion promoter because it'll help make a stronger bond. All right, now that we got that, we're gonna let that set up for just a minute or two. In these cases where we have not a lot of places to adhere to, I also sometimes put a piece on the part that we're adhering to the car. So in this case on the front nose section, just because it's a little small, I'm going to apply some of this so that it does adhere really well once we glue it. For all our adhesive uses, we always use a 3M urethane. It's shown that the 3M product withstands basically everything. And in a severe case, we can remove it if we need to. You don't want to necessarily have to do that, but it can be done. So what I'm going to do is we never apply adhesive to the part that we're applying to. we actually apply it to the part that we're putting on the car. And in this case, we're going to let this set up just a couple more minutes. Once this set up, then we'll come back and glue this piece on. So all of our primer is dry. So now I'm going to apply the urethane. Now there really is a happy median of you can put too much on or too little. We try to blend that, and we also dry fit each part several times so we know which way it's going to go on and which way the adhesive is going to push its way when we put it on, because that's very important. So right now I'm going to slowly add a bit of this adhesive. All right, now we have our adhesive applied. This is actually going to slide on, so it can really go on one way. And the way that we apply the caulk is so that when we do push it, it doesn't all get pushed back here. It kind of works its way up to this edge and then back. So everything looks good. We've got our initial tack down centered with the V carbon. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some painter's tape. We do this with all the other parts, and we kind of position it equally all the way around here so that we have our seams all on an equidistant plane. It's not wavy or anything. And we also have equal amount of pressure on the ends, so it's kind of uniform all the way installed. So we'll do this to the rest of the parts around the car, the mirrors, the vents, stuff like that. And then when we're installing the new glass bonnet, we have the big carbon engine vents that we'll show you guys. But I'm going to finish up all of these adhesive carbon additions, and then we'll put the rear bumper on the car. Beyond this, the rest of the carbon parts, we're just going to install the wheels and tires. And then Justin will give me a hand. We'll set the suspension ride height. I'll probably put it down in the blocks, show you guys what that looks like with the new Novatec wheels and tires. And then we're getting close to wrapping it up. So we're excited to see this car finish up, be on the ground, and on the road this spring. So we've got the carbon all set up on the car, and we're waiting for a couple other parts to come in. So today I thought I'd tackle the wheel and tire mounting and balancing. As we talked about previously, we're running the Novatec Vossen NL4 in a 21-inch rear fitment and a 20-inch front fitment. So we're going +1 in the size overall. So today, show you guys what the NL4 looks like. So the NL4 is a really cool wheel. This is a true forged wheel in a partnership with Vossen and Novatec. So Vossen actually cuts all of Novatec's wheels. The McLaren setups also. So any of the McLaren Novatec wheels are cut by Vossen. And these are a really unique set because they have this adapter that covers the lug bolts where they traditionally go. And then we have a center cap, or excuse me, a center nut bezel that will pop in. And then we will have another trim ring that goes in there, and the Lamborghini factory cap will fit. So this is a really neat look because it gives you the look of a center locking lug wheel without actually going to a center lock. So today I'm going to get these mounted on our tires, get our pressure sensors in there, and get them over by the car and get them ready for final installation. So we're just jumped in the Evo, taking it on its maiden voyage, making sure everything's good before we give it back to the client. And already I can tell the sound of the Ryft exhaust is so much better than the factory car. Even though the factory car sounds good, there's always something that can be improved upon when we have one of these cars. So what we're going to do now is take it on a couple highway passes, make sure everything feels good, sounds good. The lowering suspension feels good, and we're confident giving the car back to the client. And this is going to finally wrap up our Lamborghini Huracan EVO project. This was a Novatec featured build. We did a lot of Novatec parts on the car, all the carbon fiber, so the front splitter, the front air intake grates, the rear view mirrors, the side air intakes, the rear air intakes, rear trim panel, and also the diffuser. We also did the Novatec NL4 wheels in a 20-21-inch staggered fitment. These have the matching center lock lug look with them, which I think looks really cool with this matte factory paint. We also lowered the car with Novitec's adjustable spring suspension to give it that really aggressive look. And then of course, if you come around to the back, that's where the soundtrack is handled. Our friends over at Ryft took care of us again, making the V10 sound the way that it should. Also peeking through the rear intake grills. It always is something nice to look at. And then we also did a little hand brushing on the Lamborghini emblem to take some of that sheen off. And then of course added the clear European side markers, which I think is a really good touch. These are not functional from Europe, so we actually have to fabricate the rears to make them work and operational, so they're fully operational for the client. And we're just happy to see the car on the ground and done. Client's coming for the first time today in about 30 minutes to see the car. He's been eager to get it and drive it this spring here in Michigan. So we're gonna get the car back in the shop, cleaned up, ready for him, and get him on his way for the weekend.